Hey everybody, welcome back again to Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy, where the proof is in the singing. I'm continuing my series on taking these crazy great isolated vocal tracks, and I'm doing a tutorial, an analysis, talking about the recording process, songwriting, production, you name it, little backstory about the band, etc. Next up is Toto. Singer is Bobby Kimball. Their very first big hit was called Hold the Line. Now, I think it was released around 1978, quite some time ago, but I did a version of this with my student Gabriela Gunchikova. And I'm going to put it in the description, and you guys have got to check this out. She did a killer job. I don't even think she heard of the song before, I worked with her on it. We kind of tried to take it to another level. So I think you'll really like that. I'm working with Gabby on some new stuff. Stick around for that because it's going to be awesome. But anyway, the interesting thing about Toto is these guys were extraordinary players. In fact, pretty much all of them, the Porcaro brothers, Steve Lukather, one of my all-time favorite guitarists, Bobby Kimball, David Pace, like the whole band, they were mega studio musicians in Los Angeles, and they decided to form a band. And the interesting thing too is I think 4 of the members actually performed on Michael Jackson's Thriller album. So if you get a chance, you can look that up straight up. Anyway, just exceptionally talented guys, and this was their very first song out of the box. And I remember hearing this thing way back when. I forget, let's see, I was born in 63, so 73, 74, 75, 76, so 77, 78, so was I 15 years old, something like that. And I remember hearing this because I was really into music, especially rock music, going, wow, what a crazy, unique sound. It was jazz influenced, but not like sappy jazz. It was like really cool. The grooves were like kind of swing grooves. The musicianship was awesome. The singing was off the chain. Everything about it was really catchy. And so it became quickly one of my favorite bands really early on. So I want to dive right in. Bobby Kimball on vocals. Oh, by the way, I have a singing course. It's called How to Sing Better Than Anyone Else. If you guys are interested in wanting to learn how to sing, you can find it right here at Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy. I have a free singing forum over there with about 25,000 members, all talking about how to get great at singing. And we certainly, approach and go through stuff like this. So here we go. Bobby Kimball.
It's not in the way that you hold me. It's not in the way you say you care. It's not in the way you've been treating my friends. It's not in the way that you stay till the end. It's not in the way you look or the things that you say that you do or the lies.
Cool. Okay, now he's got a very naturally gifted high voice. It's not in the way that you told me. It's not in the way you say you can. Right? So he's got a really beautifully high-placed voice, and so I loved about that about him. Now, at this time, I wasn't a singer. I loved guitar. Been playing guitar a long time. I didn't even take my vocals seriously till I started about 19. So 4 years later, I started taking vocals real seriously. And I was, like I said, about 15 at this time, but the band was just absolutely captivating, and they just owned the radio back then, especially with songs like Africa, and of course Toto 4, I think, won a Grammy, and that was in 83, I think. But anyway, so really amazing stuff when you listen to Bobby's vocals on this. Now, the other thing too is, all of the members, had songwriting influence, but one of the main members for songwriting was David Pace, the keyboard player, and Steve Lukather. So you can really hear, when you hear back the track, you can really go, oh, wow, and I'm going to do that, I'll show you. You're going to go, I can really hear that. The keyboard player wrote the thing, and Lukather embellished, and there was kind of a tag team throughout a lot of Toto where that was a pretty dominant theme with them, and David Pace wrote, Africa and stuff like that. In fact, I don't think he'd ever even been to Africa, and he wrote this song, and it was such a smash. But anyway, so let's continue. Here we go.
Love isn't always on time. Whoa, whoa, whoa. For the line. Love isn't always on time. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Now, if you notice, there was kind of a theme with a lot of these bands back then, and it could have been Kansas, it could have been Styx, it could have been these guys, like whomever. They had a similar approach to their background vocals that were this pristine, kind of high-placed, like I said, Styx, Renegade, all these different songs. You really hear an influence of everyone kind of, competing for that space of that kind of quality of, just gorgeous, perfectly orchestrated, almost anthemic, but not quite background vocals. But what's also interesting too is within sort of these orchestrations, even though they competed for that kind of excellence, these bands all sounded so unique. They were so different. So Toto, like think about this. I'm going to put this up here for a second and include the track just so you can hear it. But if you hear this with the track, right, it's so unique as far as the rock band doing this. Okay, and so the reason I bring that, now there were some bands, some most post-Motown bands and whatnot that did a lot of, horn stabs. You had, oh my gosh, so many really great horn bands. And I don't even mean just Chicago, because Chicago was during this time and whatnot, but Tower of Power and just all these great bands, Two Sons of Liberty. There was all these crazy, I think that was a band, other bands. And by the way, you guys can help me out. You could put some things in the comment section for you guys that remember this stuff. You can help us out, and for our younger audience, say, yeah, check out this band. Yeah, check out this band. Because I think it'd be really helpful for them to see how the flavors were happening. Santana, which wasn't a horn band, but all these bands were so unique in their sounds that, you'd listen to a band like this and you go, wow, how can we beat that? Or if I was a band back then thinking this, how could I beat this band with my own unique sound? And so, you ended up with Led Zeppelin, and then you ended up with, like I said, Kansas or Elton John, or it was so diverse and so unique. And then even Guitar Hero bands, they were all kind of fighting. That's why I'm bringing Lukather up. Guitar Hero bands back then, there was, you had Uli Roth, back in early UFO days when then Michael Schenker took his place. Then you had, like I said, I already mentioned Santana. You had Al Di Meola, oh my gosh, Race with the Devil on Spanish Highway. You guys, I know I'm rambling, but for you guys out there, they remember all this stuff, Dancing Madly Backwards. Remember Captain Beyond? Then you had John McLaughlin, like I said, Dancing Madly Backwards. Then you had, Eric Clapton, Blues Guys. Then you had, like I said, Santana, I already said him. You had B.B. King. You had, and this list just went, Jan Ackerman. Remember the band Focus? Remember Hocus Pocus by Focus? So you had these just fabulously talented musicians, all really diverse and really unique. And Toto really stepped up to the place of that. And Jeff Beck, like I said, the list went on and on and on. But all right, so I'll shut up and let Bobby do the work here. But I wanted to bring that up because if you guys out there listening to this can post some of the diversity of some of these bands that were really great like this in the comment sections, it would help out for people to kind of dig in and see some music they may not be aware of.
It's not in the words that you told me were. It's not in the way you say you're mine. Ooh.
I remember doing this bit with Gabriella, and it's ooh, ooh, but he's fast. Ooh, right? Or ooh, whatever's like an extra lick at the end. And I go, gosh, it's a unique jazz lick. It's not like ooh, it's not like that. It's ooh, right? Right? And it's just this kind of unusual. So it was off the beaten path of a lot of the typical blues licks, we were hearing. Bobby was very unique in his approach. I think he's from New Orleans, right? Or something like that. He was very unique in his approach. And then he had this really beautiful high range like Mickey Thomas and Brad Delp and, all these great high range singers back then. Steve Perry, obviously.
It's not in the way that you came back to me. It's not in the way that your love set me free. It's not in the way you look or the things that you say that you do. For the lie. Love isn't always on time. Whoa, whoa, whoa. For the line.
Okay, now, I want you to hold the line. Right, I want you to go, la, hold the line. Yeah, yeah. Right, go, yeah, yeah, yeah. If you can plant that sound right in the front of your face instead of hold the line, right? And get it real small. Hold the line. It's not in the way that you love me. Yeah, yeah. Right? If you put it right here, you can find yourself getting into that tone and right in the center of your face without trying to drag up all this weight. Would you? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right? And I like that sound too, but it's much harder sound to manage. And this sound gives you a lot more freedom for licks and for, range and being able to go up even higher, right? And Bobby is a great demonstration of that. So let's continue. Here we go.
Love isn't always on
Okay, and here's Steve Lukather's epic solo. By the way, I know I've said this before, but I want to say it again. As a guitar player growing up, when I heard this, some of my greatest influences on guitar were, Jimmy Page, of course. I loved, Joe Perry from Aerosmith. That's another band that was very unique, right? And then so there's all these great iconic players. I really loved Al Di Meola. I loved John McLaughlin because I loved a lot of fast, crazy playing. Like I said, I already mentioned Uli Roth. I mentioned Michael Schenker. I mentioned Jan Ackerman. And so these were more fast players, but their vibrato, AC/DC, their vibratos. And then all of a sudden, Lukather comes out and does this. This like almost Iron Maiden like Bruce Dickinson vibrato on guitar, so to speak. And when I heard that, I went, because I really like, Steve Morris and Dixie Dregs, all these guys. There's another band that was very unique, Dixie Dregs. And I thought, wow, I've never heard that before. Like this big, beautiful, fat, wide vibrato. And I just quickly adopted it. And I never went back to that frenetic, fast vibrato again. I always had this big, nasty, fast area, a wide vibrato compared to a fast vibrato. And it was 100% because of Steve Lukather that I made that transition. Of course, and his note choices and passing tones and stuff, I know this is supposed to be about vocals, but man, when you got a guitar that is great, you gotta talk about that too, right? All right, let's go to the end, where they kick back in with the chorus and he does some cool ad-libs.
It's not in the words that you told me. It's not in the way you say you're mine. Ooh. It's not in the way that you came back to me. It's not in the way that your love set me free. It's not in the way you look or the things that you say that you do. Oh, they lie. Love isn't always on time. Oh, oh, oh. Hold the line. Love isn't always on time. Love isn't always on time. Hold the line. Love isn't always on time. Love isn't always on time.
And on stuff like love isn't always, right? I had Gabriella do a whole bunch of extra stuff. So check it out. Look and see how we did in the description, and you'll get a kick out of it. Now, I want to go back to the top. So I want to add the band in, and I wanted to show you. Now, I remember this song and its vocals being a little more lush than they are on the track. So I'm going to play with the track, and I just want to show you how I added just a little bit of cheese to it, and I'll tell you exactly what I did, all right? Check it out. Here we go. Oh, wait. I promised I was going to talk about the instrumentation, about the exchange of the keyboards and the guitars. So, yeah, David Paich on keys. You could tell the song was keyboard driven the way it was written. Check it out. So imagine being in this rehearsal room, right? David comes out and he goes like, hey, I got this bit. And it's kind of Little Richard, nothing crazy, but the jazz influences that and the choruses and stuff are. But he comes in and goes, right? You kind of go, what do I do with that? I could go, or I could go, you can think of all kinds of things. Lukather comes out, he hears this swing go, right? Here's a swing, and he goes, wow! Right? So he leaves space for the original idea of the song, which is really cool, and he just brings his own growling, instrumentation to the table. And I think that is awesome because that's how a great band writes. Some guy comes up with a lick, another guy goes, hey, I don't want to step on your lick. And we talked about Styx and other bands that did a great job with stuff like this. We just got off of doing a whole thing on Queen. We did a Queen-a-thon. And so they were very masters at this. But anyway, so you have this without stepping on that. And then when these cool, these swing things happen. So all of a sudden it's this up here, and then and then it brings it down for the vocal, so the vocal can do this.
In the way that you hold me. It's not in the way you say you care.
Now, if you listen really closely, and that's why I wanted to talk about this, is you hear the bass line. I want you to focus on the bass line only for a second. So listen to what the bass line is doing underneath the vocal. So you think to yourself, okay, Lukather comes out with this epic, roaring guitar thing, and then listen closely to the bass.
It's not in the way that you hold me. It's not in the way you say you care.
So instead, Luke sits back and goes, well, I can't put that big guitar and step all over those vocals, and that's a really cool bass line. Maybe I'll just double my guitar. Right? He's doing kind of the intro lick that brought the vocal in, right? And he's just doubling the bass line on guitar to stay out of everyone's way, but to fatten up the rhythm section to pull that off. Isn't that cool?
Not in the way you've been treating my friends.
Right?
It's not in the way that you stay till the end. It's not in the way you look.
And then when it's time to shine, do you hear the exchange? You got the heavy guitar, and then it gets out of the way for the vocal. Vocal comes in. After the vocal's done, the exchange of the guitar comes back in. That way, when you mix the song, everyone's not competing for the same space, right? So check it out again. So I think that's really cool. Okay, now that I'm done with that. Now, like I said early on, before I interrupted myself about wanting to talk about the instrumentation, I just remember the vocal being more lush than that. So I decided to go ahead and do just that. So here's the original vocal. Play it again.
It's not in the way that you hold me. It's not in the way you say you care.
Here's what I did to it.
It's not in the way that you hold me. It's not in the way you say you care.
Without.
It's not in the way you've been treating my friends.
With.
It's not in the way that you stay till the end.
Without.
It's not in the way you look or the things that you say that you do. Or the lie. Love isn't always on time.
And all I did is I just added a couple different room sounds. I added a really short, like a 0.5 millisecond short reverb. Then I did like a 0.7. I offset one by 10 milliseconds. I offset another one by 20 milliseconds, so there wasn't a phase relationship. And then I made a really, really, really bright, long room, but there's no low end in it at all. I mean, almost nothing. So it's just a little space, kind of a little air up top, because I didn't want it to be really soaking in reverb. And then a tiny little bit of delay that I put only in the reverbs. I didn't actually make the delay by itself. I put a delay in the reverb, so you couldn't actually hear the delay per se. It just kind of has like a reflection, like you're in a room, and it just kind of pings off the room a little bit through the reverb. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me, guys. I just am loving this series. I hope you're liking it too. Please give me a thumbs up if you're liking it, and definitely stick around and check out my next video.